History loves to divide people into heroes and traitors. But the truth is rarely that simple. Some betrayed a cause. Some were betrayed by circumstance. And some carried the label forever. In this video, we explore both famous and forgotten traitors across history, and the stories that turned their names into legend. A kiss in the dark. Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples of Jesus, approached the authorities and identified him, receiving 30 pieces of silver in return. The act set in motion Jesus' arrest and crucifixion, an event that would define the course of early Christian history. Across centuries, Judas has become the archetype of betrayal. Artists, writers, and theologians have painted him as the ultimate traitor, a symbol of human treachery. Yet even in the earliest sources, questions linger. His motives are ambiguous, debated between greed, political calculation, or a role within a divine plan. To the world, his name is synonymous with betrayal. In historical terms, the evidence is confined to scripture and tradition, leaving his true intentions shrouded in uncertainty. A knife among friends. Marcus Junius Brutus, a senator and confidant of Julius Caesar, joined the conspiracy to assassinate him on the Ides of March, 44 BCE. Caesar had amassed unprecedented power, and Brutus, torn between loyalty to a friend and duty to the Republic, took part in the plot to remove him. The assassination ended Caesar's life but plunged Rome into civil war. Over time, writers and historians transformed Brutus into the archetypal traitor, a cautionary figure in literature and drama. Yet at the moment, his actions were framed by a complex mix of political principle, fear of tyranny, and personal conviction, an ambiguity that continues to spark debate centuries later. Not the face of betrayal, but the mind behind it. Gaius Cassius Longinus was a key architect of the plot against Julius Caesar. While Brutus wrestled with conscience and loyalty, Cassius planned, organized, and recruited the conspirators, seeing Caesar's rise as a threat to the Republic itself. He feared that unchecked power would destroy Rome's traditions, and he acted decisively to prevent it. His political calculation demonstrates how betrayal can be framed as resistance, an act of principle rather than personal malice. History remembers Cassius as a conspirator, a manipulator, and a cautionary figure. But in his own time, his actions were guided by ideology, strategy, and survival in a volatile political world. One hidden path. One decision with monumental consequences. Ephialtes of Trachis revealed a secret mountain route to the Persian army during the Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BCE. This allowed the vastly larger Persian force to outflank the Spartan-led defenders, leading to the fall of the pass. Greek historians condemned him as the ultimate traitor, a man whose actions doomed a small force of legendary warriors. Yet the historical record is limited. We know little of his motives, whether ambition, fear, or coercion. His name has endured as a symbol of betrayal, illustrating how a single choice can alter the course of history, and how memory can immortalize, or vilify, a person long after their life is gone. From hero to traitor in a lifetime. Benedict Arnold was once celebrated as one of the most capable commanders of the American Revolution. He played critical roles in capturing Fort Ticonderoga and delaying British advances in upstate New York. At the Battle of Saratoga, his leadership and courage helped secure a turning point in the war, earning him respect and admiration from allies. Yet personal grievances, financial difficulties, and disputes over recognition began to sour his loyalty. By 1780, Arnold was in command of West Point, a strategically vital fortress. Secretly, he negotiated with the British to surrender it, but the plot was discovered before it could succeed. His attempted defection transformed him into the permanent symbol of treason in U.S. memory. Despite his earlier heroism, his name endures as a cautionary emblem of betrayal, illustrating how personal circumstances and ambition can shift public perception from heroism to infamy. A messenger in enemy territory. Major John Andre, a British officer, played a critical role in Benedict Arnold's plot to surrender West Point. Carrying documents that revealed the fort's defenses, he was captured behind American lines in 1780, disguised in civilian clothing. Under the laws of war at the time, André was tried as a spy and sentenced to death by hanging. His composure and dignity during the trial impressed both friends and foes, and many contemporaries described him as honorable, even courageous. History remembers André differently than Arnold. In Britain, he is often portrayed as a professional and principled officer carrying out his duty. In the United States, his capture cemented Arnold's infamy while André became a symbol of the complexities of loyalty and the fine line between espionage and treason. One alliance, one battle, one empire altered forever. In 1757, during the Battle of Plassey, Mir Jafar, a high-ranking commander under Siraj-ud-Daulah, made a pivotal choice. Amid the chaos of battle, his troops held back at a critical moment, allowing the British East India Company to secure victory. This single act of defection shifted the balance of power in the subcontinent, marking the beginning of nearly 2 centuries of British dominance in India. Mir Jafar's name quickly became synonymous with betrayal, a cautionary symbol in South Asian memory. Yet historians note the context: internal rivalries, political ambition, and pressure from colonial powers all influenced his decision. The betrayal was not simply personal disloyalty, it was a turning point in a larger geopolitical struggle. His story endures as a stark reminder of how individual choices can ripple across nations, reshaping history in ways far beyond the battlefield. A single act, a lasting legacy. In 1799, during the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, Mir Sadiq, a minister in Tipu Sultan's court, is said to have withdrawn his forces at a decisive moment, allowing British troops to breach the defences of Srirangapatna. This action contributed directly to the fall of Tipu Sultan and the collapse of his resistance against British expansion in southern India. Over time, Mir Sadiq's name became synonymous with betrayal in regional memory. Stories of his actions were recounted as warnings, repeated across generations, solidifying his reputation as a traitor. Yet historical records are complex. Some sources suggest political pragmatism or self-preservation, while others portray deliberate collusion. His story illustrates how perception and narrative often outlive certainty, and how a single choice can define a person for centuries. A government under occupation. During World War II, Vidkun Quisling assumed leadership of Norway under Nazi supervision, actively collaborating with German authorities. He implemented policies that suppressed resistance, facilitated the deportation of Norwegian Jews, and sought to align the country with Nazi ideology. His actions were widely condemned both during and after the war. So infamous did he become that his name, Quisling, entered multiple languages as a synonym for traitor, a rare case where a historical figure's infamy becomes a word. Yet Quisling's story also reflects the pressures of occupation and political opportunism. He was not merely an individual acting in isolation, his choices were embedded in a broader system of coercion and collaboration. History remembers him as the archetype of betrayal, a cautionary symbol of personal ambition intersecting with national catastrophe. A microphone turned into a weapon. During World War II, William Joyce, famously known as Lord Haw-Haw, became the English-language voice of Nazi propaganda, broadcasting messages designed to demoralize the British public and Allied forces. His smooth, articulate delivery carried warnings, misinformation, and ideological appeals, making him one of the most recognizable faces, or voices, of collaboration. After the war, Joyce was captured, tried, and executed for treason in Britain. His broadcasts had done little to alter the outcome of the war, but his actions left a lasting imprint on collective memory, representing the dangers of propaganda and the moral weight of aiding an occupying power. History recalls Joyce less as a soldier or strategist and more as a symbol, a reminder that betrayal can take many forms, not only in actions on the battlefield but through influence, speech, and persuasion. A friend in plain sight. Kim Philby, a senior officer in British intelligence during the Cold War, secretly passed critical information to the Soviet Union for decades. As a member of the infamous Cambridge spy ring, he infiltrated the very agencies meant to protect Britain, betraying colleagues, operations, and national security from within. His duplicity was not discovered until 1963, after years of successful espionage that compromised missions and endangered agents. Philby's actions reveal a betrayal hidden in plain sight, one measured not by a single moment but by a lifetime of deception. History remembers Philby as the archetype of the double agent, brilliant, calculating, and devastatingly effective. Yet his story also highlights the human dimensions of loyalty, ideology, and the subtle vulnerabilities within even the most secure systems. Charm and intellect as a cover. Guy Burgess, a member of the Cambridge spy ring alongside Kim Philby, used his wit, social connections, and intelligence position to pass sensitive British secrets to the Soviet Union. Unlike Philby, Burgess's espionage became publicly infamous when he defected abruptly in 1951, fleeing to Moscow with Donald Maclean and leaving Britain stunned. His escape exposed the reach of Soviet infiltration and deepened public distrust in the intelligence community. Burgess became both a cautionary tale of ideological betrayal and a symbol of audacity, someone who turned loyalty into a personal and political gamble with profound consequences. History remembers him as brilliant yet reckless, a reminder that espionage is as much about human psychology and privilege as it is about ideology or strategy. A life of diplomacy hiding a secret allegiance. Donald Maclean, a British diplomat stationed in key positions during the early Cold War, secretly relayed highly classified information to the Soviet Union for years. His intelligence included policy discussions, strategic assessments, and diplomatic correspondence, providing the USSR with insights that could, and did, shape global events. In 1951, he vanished alongside Guy Burgess, fleeing to Moscow and exposing the depth of the Cambridge spy ring. The shock of their defection reverberated through British society and intelligence circles, shaking confidence in the institutions entrusted with national security. Maclean's story demonstrates the quiet, long-term impact of betrayal, subtle, invisible, but immensely consequential. History remembers him not just as a traitor, but as a figure whose secrecy and discretion allowed espionage to thrive for years before it was revealed. A connoisseur of beauty hiding a life of betrayal. Anthony Blunt, a respected art historian and surveyor of the Queen's pictures, moved seamlessly within the British elite while secretly passing sensitive intelligence to the Soviet Union. As part of the Cambridge spy ring, his espionage stretched over decades, compromising information from government and intelligence circles. Blunt's exposure in 1979 shocked the public. Here was a man admired for culture and intellect, whose duplicity revealed how deeply ideology and secrecy could infiltrate even trusted institutions. His story demonstrates that betrayal is not always loud or violent, sometimes it is quiet, methodical, and embedded within the very structures meant to safeguard a nation. History remembers Blunt both for his scholarly contributions and for the erosion of public trust his actions caused, a reminder that betrayal can wear the mask of civility and respectability. Years of loyalty. Or deception. George Blake, a British intelligence officer during the Cold War, secretly worked for the Soviet Union, passing critical intelligence that endangered operations and agents for more than a decade. His duplicity remained hidden even from colleagues, allowing him to navigate the upper echelons of MI6 while feeding information to the KGB. In 1966, Blake was sentenced to 42 years in prison for espionage, but his story did not end there. In 1966, he escaped from Wormwood Scrubs prison in a daring breakout, eventually reaching Moscow and living out the rest of his life in exile. Blake's actions exemplify betrayal on both personal and institutional levels, a man trusted to defend a nation, yet systematically undermining it over decades. History remembers him as audacious, cunning, and emblematic of the Cold War's shadowy struggles, where one individual could quietly shift the balance of global intelligence. Trust exploited from within. Aldrich Ames, a senior officer at the CIA, betrayed his country for financial gain, passing highly classified information to the Soviet Union and, later, Russia. His disclosures included the identities of agents operating behind the Iron Curtain, many of whom were captured or executed as a direct result. For nearly a decade, Ames operated undetected, manipulating his colleagues' trust and exploiting the vulnerabilities of the intelligence system. His espionage inflicted enormous damage on U.S. intelligence networks, creating a ripple effect that compromised operations worldwide. Ames is remembered as one of the most destructive traitors in American history, a stark example of how personal motives, money, resentment, ambition, can transform professional duty into catastrophic betrayal. A lifetime spent inside the walls of trust. Robert Hanssen, an FBI agent with decades of access to the nation's most sensitive counterintelligence secrets, sold information to the Soviet Union and later Russia. His betrayals included agent identities, surveillance techniques, and classified strategies, undermining U.S. operations at the highest levels. For over 20 years, Hanssen operated undetected, blending into the routines of the Bureau while steadily feeding intelligence to the enemy. The full extent of his espionage only came to light in 2001, revealing one of the most damaging insider betrayals in American history. Hanssen's story highlights the quiet, relentless danger of treachery from within. History remembers him as meticulous, calculating, and devastatingly effective, a reminder that sometimes the gravest threats come not from outside, but from those entrusted to protect a nation. The stage and the shadows. Mata Hari, born Margaretha Gertruida Zell, rose to fame as an exotic dancer and courtesan in early 20th century Europe. During World War I, she was accused of spying for Germany while living in France. Captured in 1917, she was tried and executed by firing squad. Her case remains shrouded in ambiguity. Some evidence suggests she passed information, while other historians argue that her notoriety, flamboyant lifestyle, and connections made her an easy scapegoat for wartime paranoia. Regardless, her legend endures as a cautionary tale. The line between espionage and myth, between accusation and proof, is often blurred. Mata Hari embodies the intersection of intrigue, performance, and history, an enduring symbol of betrayal whose story continues to fascinate and provoke debate. From national hero to national shame. Philippe Pétain, hailed as the victor of Verdun during World War I, became a symbol of French resilience and military genius. Decades later, during World War II, he assumed leadership of Vichy France after the German occupation, overseeing a regime that collaborated with Nazi authorities. Under his government, policies included cooperation with German demands, including the persecution of Jews and suppression of resistance. Pétain's actions divided the nation. Some viewed him as a pragmatic protector of France under impossible circumstances, others as a willing collaborator who betrayed his country's principles. History remembers Pétain with moral ambiguity, celebrated for past heroism yet condemned for wartime choices. His life illustrates how quickly public memory can shift and how a single decision in a moment of crisis can redefine an entire legacy. Ambition entwined with compromise. Pierre Laval rose to prominence in French politics long before World War II, but his legacy was defined by his leadership within Vichy France. As one of the regime's most influential officials, he actively collaborated with Nazi Germany, enforcing policies that facilitated repression, deportation, and exploitation under occupation. Laval's decisions were motivated by a mix of ideology, pragmatism, and personal ambition. After the war, he was tried, convicted, and executed, his name forever tied to betrayal in French memory. Historians view him as a cautionary figure, a politician whose pursuit of power led him to betray both national sovereignty and moral responsibility. His story exemplifies the dangerous intersection of personal ambition and political expediency, demonstrating how choices made in moments of crisis can resonate across history. Betrayal is one of history's oldest stories, but the label is rarely simple. Some names became symbols. Some became warnings. And some became myths. If this video made you see history differently, follow us for more evidence-based explorations that go beyond the textbook version. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others. Your support helps us bring more captivating stories from the past to life.